Hey, 8th graders, this week is our last week of school. Woohoo! And this week you don't have any homework except that you need to watch these videos. And on Tuesday and Friday, meet for our Zoom class and take some notes. And we'll say goodbye to each other on Friday. And I wish you well until next school year. Hopefully, I'll see you guys at the end of August, and we'll be able to catch up. But this week, we want to talk about the end of Rome. And today, I want to zoom in on Attila the Hun. Sometimes he's called the Scourge of God by historians, especially the historians that were living at the time that were Christians. They saw Attila the Hun as one of the most wicked, cruel, devious leaders they'd ever heard of, come across. So, who is Attila the Hun, and how does he lead to the end of Rome? Well, let's find out. So, where did he come from? Well, he came from up the you might call like today Russia, uh, around that area of Asia, blending into Europe. That area, or the was where the Huns, a tribe of people that were kind of nomads, um, where they started to expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So from that one location above, maybe you might think of it as today as like Turkey, above that area, above what then would have been the Byzantium or Constantinople. There's a group of tribesmen led by this guy named Attila, and they started winning battles after battles. And how did they win battles? Well, they won battles by using non-traditional warfare, warfare that we know today as maybe guerrilla warfare, quick hitting kind of warfare where you don't just meet all of your enemies right there on the battle. Kind of think of like the Persians versus the Greeks. You line up on one side, we line up on the other, we rush at each other. These were like quick hit attacks, surprise attacks, when they weren't expecting it. Attila and his men would come in on horseback. They said the Huns were born on horses. Little kids knew how to ride horses from an early age. They mastered the bow and arrow and the horse combined, and they became this giant, deadly force working up in that area of the world, what we might consider today like Russia. So they start to terrorize that area, Asia and Europe. And there's a people group that live between Attila and the Romans. And that's why it's an important part of our story. Attila really might scare Rome a little bit. They might scare Constantinople a little bit. But really, the problem is going to come. There's a group of people between Attila and the Roman world. And that's what we might call the barbarians. Today we call it the barbarians or the Goths or something like that. You just sort of, oh, barbarians came into Rome. Well, they did, but they did it because they were fleeing from Attila the Hun. So you have these people that live just to the east of the Danube River, and we call them Goths. And those Goths are living a pretty normal, contented life. You know, there'd be skirmishes, of course, between them and Rome, but they had to leave their country because Attila was conquering all throughout Asia and in Europe. And so they had to get out, and they crossed the Danube River. You see the Danube River there, which goes through Germany today. They go across the Danube River, and they show up in Rome. In tomorrow's class, I'm going to talk about the Goths and their connection to Rome. But today, the most important thing is that Attila the Hun, who was this really scary guerrilla warfare guy who would come into the city, hit it really fast, grab some stuff, and then leave, he's terrorizing people along that river, the Danube River. And those people were the Goths, and they were wanting to get out of that area because they were scared of Attila, and they had to go south, and they had to go further west, and that led them into Rome, the Roman world. And so really, the story of Attila is the story of kicking out the Goths and the Goths having to find some place to go, refugees, and they end up in Rome, looking for a safe place to live. And so Attila, he actually almost marries a Roman princess at one point, but he ends up marrying someone else, and it's not but a day later that he ends up dead, and we're not sure exactly if it's like Alexander the Great. Was he killed? Did he die of some weird natural cause? We don't know. It's very sudden, and we have the end of Attila. But by that point, he had already chased out so many Goths into the Roman world, and there's going to be a huge conflict between the Goths and the Romans. All right, so tomorrow I'm going to talk about the Goths and their invasion, we might call it, but we'd also call it just refugees trying to get out of the way of Attila the Hun, and ends up in Italy, a civilized world that they thought, this sounds pretty good, let's stay here. This is better than having to do anything with Attila, this madman who's killing people on horses. So tomorrow our Zoom class will be all about the Goths and their intrusion into the Roman world in the 400s. All right, see you guys. See you tomorrow.